Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here. We have special guest with us. It's Sam Tripoli from the Tinfoil Hat Podcast. Hi, Sam. How are you? Sam's got a big show coming up in San Francisco. What's the date on that, Sam?
June 1st, Cobb's Comedy Club, and then June 2nd at the Sacramento Punchline.
That's a great place for it, Comedy Club, because you're a comedian and you're funny.
Thank you.
What you should be.
You like me. You really like me.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to show this. William Craddock tweeted this out, and this is kind of amazing, this video I'm about to show you. And he says, at a Council on Foreign Relations forum, that's what we were just talking about off camera, Council on Foreign Relations forum about fake news, former editor at Time magazine, his name is Richard Stengel, he directly states that he supports the use of propaganda on American citizens, then shuts the session down when challenged about how propaganda is used against the third world. You ready? Watch this. This is now, keep in mind who this guy is. Former editor of Time magazine. Listen to what he has to say.
So you'll be the last question, but I just want to weigh in on that for 1 second. So there's another word for master narratives. It's called history. Basically, every country creates their own narrative story. And you know, my old job at the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job.
First of all, how awesome is it that the guy used to be at the State Department, then he was the editor at Time magazine? What the F? Let's just get Henry Kissinger to run New York Times. Are you kidding me? So, and did you hear what they used to call him?
You know, my old job at the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job. We haven't talked about propaganda.
That's a hilarious joke.
That is so
really good.
People used to joke that my job was a chief propagandist because that's what I would do. We joke about things that are real.
Sometimes they'd call me minister. It was hysterical.
I'm the best liar.
Propaganda, I'm not against propaganda. Every country does it, and they have to do it to their own population. And I don't necessarily think it's that awful. And this idea of a news cartel. I mean, I was editor of Time in 2012 during that election, and I remember, you know, you're competing against cartels and everybody. I remember being on a panel with the then editor of the New York Times, who said, it's really hard to break through these days. This is the editor of the New York Times saying it's hard to break through. I wanted to jump off the platform. Like, what's it like for the rest of everybody? So, I mean, there are cartels, but cartels don't have hegemony like they used to.
So what he's trying to do is trying to make you believe that there is an agreement. There is not agreement in the establishment on what the talking points are to be pushed, which is complete BS. Why is it that every news organization pushed the Iraq war when everybody knew that was a BS war? He's saying, oh, there's no central planning. We don't get together in a smoke-filled room and figure all this stuff out. I mean, come on. I mean, even people like the New York Times can't break through. There are 6 companies that own all our media. 6 companies that own all our media. The guy who owns the Washington Post is in bed with the CIA and the Pentagon and owns our politicians and manipulates the tax laws and has all your data. That's the owner of the Washington Post. There's more other billionaires own the New York Times. And this guy is trying to pretend that everything's on the up and up in the news business. That's what he's saying right there, right? That's what that is? Okay. So watch, it gets worse.
The gentleman right there, last question.
I don't think you want to address an issue in terms of understanding what happened in the world.
So he just got done saying propaganda is, he's pro-pop propaganda. Yes. So there's a guy who's coming from a third world country who's like, you don't understand how propaganda, the effects of U.S. propaganda on third world people. Here we go.
Because what is happening in America is what the United States flipped on the global south and in the third world, which we live with for many, many years in terms of a master narrative that was and still is propaganda.
So that's a beautiful point. That's a beautiful point what he's saying. Look at the U.S. propaganda, what it did to the global south and the third world. That's a beautiful point that guy makes. Now let's watch this former State Department guy handle it like the chief propagandist that he is. You ready? You ready? Former Time magazine editor. After he just got done saying he endorses propaganda being done on people by our government. He just said that. We didn't miss that, right? We heard it. He just got done saying propaganda is good. All governments should do it on their people. And he's saying, do you know what the effects of U.S. propaganda has been on the third world? And here's how he handles it.
You know what? I hate last questions. Don't you? I usually just want to end something before the last question. But at any rate, I want to thank this fantastic panel here today. And I do want to say, I actually think, the talk about optimism, the optimism is all of you there.
You can hear people yelling, like, you're not going to answer his question, and he's just ignoring it, completely ignoring it, and nobody on stage is going to hold him accountable.
The woman in the back is scratching her head going, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. He's got a very Harvey Weinstein vibe right there, doesn't he? Like he's got those weird bags under his eyes that you get when you sell your soul.
Yes.
Figuring out how to teach your students about this and using some of the techniques and some of the sources that we've talked about here today. And I hope you're successful. Thank you very much.
That really happened. That really happened. Master narrative. It's called history. Governments make their own history. Propaganda on people is good. I endorse it. Former editor of Time magazine. Now you know why people get their news from YouTube? Now you know why people can't trust the establishment media? Because they're pro-government propaganda. And he, by the way, they hire propagandists to be the editor of their frickin' news magazine. You think that's an accident? He would tell you it is, because we can't even get our stories to break through. What a disingenuous jagoff that guy is. What a complete propagandist that guy. Former editor of Time magazine. I want to hear him say that again. I know this sounds crazy, but...
you'll be the last question, but I just want to weigh in on that for 1 second. So there's another word for master narratives. It's called history. Basically, every country creates their own narrative story. And my old job at the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job. We haven't talked about propaganda. Propaganda, I'm not against propaganda. Every country does it, and they have to do it to their own population. And
That's the editor of Time magazine. I'm not against propaganda. Every country does it. They have to do it to their own people.
Oh, so propaganda is a good thing.
Yeah,
that's what we need.
According to the editor of Time magazine.
And when you make millions of dollars off it, it becomes a really great thing.
You need to.
Yeah.
That's when you need to.
You mean propaganda like that Saddam is a threat and he has WMDs? Do you mean that kind of propaganda that you guys just repeated in Time magazine uncritically? You mean that kind of propaganda is okay to do on people? Or the kind of propaganda that says we can't afford free college, we can't afford a living wage, that kind of propaganda, the propaganda that says we need to be in Afghanistan for 2 decades, the kind of propaganda that says we need to invade sovereign countries illegally and overthrow them and kill hundreds of thousands of people at the behest of fossil fuel companies. I mean, that kind of propaganda is okay? The kind of propaganda that says we need to be in Libya, we came, we saw, he died, that kind of propaganda? Or the propaganda right now that says Iran is a threat somehow to us and that we have to invade in Iran. I mean, that kind of So which is the propaganda that I don't know. I would love to be able to talk to that guy. I'm sure he would ignore us just like he ignored his last question.
He doesn't like last questions.
He doesn't like last questions.
He doesn't even like questions.
That would be funny if you did a Skype interview with him or something, then you asked something he didn't like, and he was like, "Well, I want to thank you for having me," and just hangs up.
Unbelievable.
So So
but you know what, Jimmy? This also makes me think, immediately when we're talking about how, like, there are these nefarious forces that infiltrate stuff that we'd otherwise wouldn't think was going to be bad. It's like Susan Rice on the board of Netflix.
Yeah.
Why does she need to be on the board
Yeah.
of Netflix? And what kind of influence is she going to have?
that's exactly.
Condoleezza Rice on the NCAA playoff committee, and she's the head of their ethics.
Ah!
Like, how is that possible? First of all, you know what this video tells me? Don't trust anybody with skinny ties. Fuck that shit. I just, propaganda is basically ultra rich people convincing rich people, ordering rich people to tell the middle class that poor people are the problem. And that's really all it is.
That's very astute. Yes, I would agree with that.
I saw that in a meme once.
Yeah, I saw that. I think I saw that meme. And you wonder why half the country doesn't vote, because jagoffs like this don't break through the propaganda. They're the propagators of it. They're the stenographers to propaganda. And then when someone actually makes a good point about it, he ignores it.
Yeah. Who's
'Cause
pro-lying?
that's a real journalist. That's a good journalist. That guy.
Who's pro-lying? Who's pro-lying?
Who's pro-lying?
Where in the rest of the world would you be like, hey, dude, I'm cool with being lied to?
Yeah.
If it means we get somewhere where I might not normally want to go, but if I'm lied to and I get there, I'm cool with it. Where does that work anywhere else?
I'm pro. I used to be the editor of Time magazine. You know how we used to, we have to fight against the government propaganda. But what this guy would say is, we have to help them. We have to help them. We have to help them spread their propaganda. And we did. And that's why he's still invited back. Where is this place? The Council on Foreign Relations. That's why he's invited there.
Illuminati.
Oh, my God. That's why he's invited there. Because he's a good boy. And he pushes the establishment line on war, on propaganda.
Well, I was going to say that's another beautiful dose of irony. It is the Council on Foreign Relations. And then when somebody asks a very critical question relating to places that aren't the United States, he's like, thanks for coming, everybody. Don't forget to teach. Peace out.
Don't forget to teach.
This is like all the bad guys from every comic book.
Yeah.
They meet here and just discuss all the evil stuff they're into, right? I mean, these videos from this area is just ridiculous, dude. They look at people as zeros, ones and zeros, binary code. We are statistics.
Yes.
We are not people.
You're right.
We are numbers that they crunch to get dollars.
Mm-hmm. And we got to influence as many of those ones and zeros as possible.
Nice to know that the editor of Time magazine is pro-government propaganda being done on you. Our next live Jimmy Dore show is July 1st in Portland, Oregon, and July 15th in Chicago, Illinois. We're doing a live show July 15th in Chicago, Illinois. Go to a link right there for all the tickets to all the live Jimmy Dore shows. Plus, if you can help become a premium member, we give you hours of bonus material every week. Become a patron or a premium member. And if you're on Steam It, we're steaming it right now. Plus, every Saturday, we do a live Super Solid Chat Saturday where it's a live stream and you can ask us questions and we'll answer them back. Every Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks for your support.